Hiya! Welcome to Melinda TV. Today we're doing another challenge video. I love doing fitness challenges. It's kind of a lot of fun to see how I can perform doing something that I haven't necessarily trained for. I think it's cool to see what my physical abilities are without training for something specifically. The last challenge I did was seeing if I would be able to pass the New Jersey State Trooper Police exam without specifically training for it. So if you want to check that out, I'm going to link it right up here. It's actually my most viewed video right now. I don't know how that happened, but okay. So today's video is going to be along those lines of me trying to do some kind of crazy physical task without training specifically for that task. Now, if you're new here, here's a little background on me. I'm a distance runner and an OCR athlete. OCR stands for obstacle course racing. And when I say distance runner, I mean all distances up to a marathon or 26.2 miles. I do a few dozen races a year typically, and it's usually a healthy blend of road races and obstacle course races. And they're usually pretty intertwined. Ideally, they would have a different body type and a different kind of training for each, but because they're both kind of happening throughout the whole season, I had to develop a very specific training plan to make sure that I'd be prepared to do both styles of races throughout the year. And most of my big races are planned months and years in advance, and my training plan, therefore, is also planned weeks and months in advance. With that said, my training plan for 2020 was pretty much already planned up until November before this pandemic hit. And my training plan is planned around the major races. And when I say major races, there are some races that I don't necessarily feel like I need to train for at this point. And then my larger races will be the focal points of my training plans. And I'll make sure that my most rigorous training is leading up to those races. I usually do 2 marathons a year, which those are the center of my training, absolutely. I do several OCRs a year, and then I will use some of the bigger or more challenging ones as the basis for my training plan. So my training plan was all scheduled and written out, and then this pandemic hit, and races started getting canceled and postponed. The last race that I did was in January, and that was the Walt Disney World Marathon and Dopey's Challenge. I was supposed to have a 5K in March. That's been postponed indefinitely. My first OCR of the year was supposed to be the Spartan Beast at the end of April. That one got canceled, postponed. They usually have 2 dates in New Jersey, one of them in the spring and one of them in the fall, and this year they kind of just combined them and put all of the distances in the fall race. So it's kind of postponed, kind of canceled. Then I was supposed to have another road race at the beginning of May, which got turned into a virtual race, and I just asked them to defer me until next year because I'm not about doing virtual races when I'm expecting an in-person race. I think virtual races have their place, but if I'm expecting to do a race in person, I'd rather do it in person. I was supposed to have a half marathon at the end of May. I was supposed to have a lot of races that at this point, I think the whole first half of my season has either been postponed or canceled, which means that races were either moved to later dates in the year or just deferred. And that's including Spartan, like I mentioned. So Spartan is a brand name of obstacle course racing. They started out with 3 main distances. The sprint is their shortest, race, and then the super is the medium one, and the beast is their longest. The race distances used to be longer and have a wider range. Like, I think the sprint used to be 4 to 6 miles, and then the super was like 8 to 10 miles, and then the beast was 14 to 16 miles, something like that. So you'd show up on race day, and there'd be like a nice 2 to 3 mile range, and you didn't exactly know how far you were running that day. And since then, Spartan has tried to standardize their race distances. So now the sprint is a 5K, the super is a 10K, and the beast is a half marathon. And for reference, a 5K is 3.1 miles, a 10K is 6.2 miles, and a half marathon is 13.1 miles. And then over the years, Spartan also added some longer endurance distances to their race options. They added an ultra, which is usually 2 laps of the beast. I don't know what it is now that they've standardized the distances. I think it's longer now because it needs to be an ultra by definition. Then they also have I think 8 and 12 hour events. They added trail running. Spartan has really expanded. And I try to run 3 Spartans a year. 1 of each distance, 1 sprint, 1 super, 1 beast. And if you do all 3 in 1 year, it's called a trifecta. So I try to get a trifecta every year. If you do all 3 of those races on the same weekend, it's called a trifecta weekend, and it's really hard to do. Now, don't get me wrong, I've done race challenges where it's 3 or more races in 1 weekend. I've even done race challenges where it's 3 OCRs in 1 weekend, but I have never done 3 Spartans in 1 weekend. Anyway, once a whole bunch of Spartans started to be canceled and postponed for the year, Spartan created a provision called a virtual Spartan, which is exactly what it sounds like. You complete the Spartan race on your own, virtually, from wherever you are. And this is just to encourage people to get off the couch and run and exercise. And to complete a virtual Spartan, you have to run the same distance that you would be running on the course. And if you can't run because of whatever lockdown procedures in your area, there are running equivalents. So you have the option to bike or swim or jump rope, or they had a whole bunch of different options for cardio, so you can make up the distance. And then they also had obstacles, 20 obstacles for the sprint, 25 obstacles for the super, and 30 obstacles for the beast. And the obstacles aren't what the obstacles would have been on course. So think about obstacles on course might be climbing over a wall, or doing some kind of variation of monkey bars, or doing some kind of swimming obstacle, doing a rope climb, doing a spear throw. These are some of the obstacles at Spartan races, but the obstacles for the virtual races would be like push-ups or sit-ups or lunges. So I'm going to link all of the information to the virtual Spartan races in the description box. But in the off chance that it does get removed later on down the line and you're not watching this video when it first comes out, I'm going to also list all of the distances and obstacles if you'd like to try to do a virtual Spartan race on your own. So that's what I did. You can complete a virtual Spartan race whenever you want, but they came up with this thing called Project Unbreakable, and they were encouraging everyone to do their virtual Spartan races on the same weekend. And I thought, hey, why not do a virtual trifecta? Now, again, that's 3 races over 2 days. A 5K, 10K, and half marathon with 20, 25, and 30 obstacles. I've never done that before. Well, obviously I've never done it before because the virtual Spartan wasn't always a thing, but I've never done a trifecta weekend before. I've done the 3 races in 1 year, but I've never done them all in the same weekend. And mind you, I haven't trained for it. So again, take that with a grain of salt when I say I haven't trained for it. It doesn't mean that I haven't done any kind of physical activity. It just means that I haven't trained specifically for this race. Like I said, I create training plans for some of my bigger races each year, and Spartans are usually some of my bigger races of the year. I usually train for a month before each Spartan with a very rigorous training plan that could involve high quantities of bodyweight exercises, lots of running, could involve powerlifting. And that's not what I've been doing because my training plan had me in a period of relative rest. And when I say that, I mean I'm still exercising regularly, but the exercise isn't as rigorous, and it's definitely not catered to the type of running and exercises that are in the virtual Spartan. In fact, I haven't run. I think the most I've run in the past few months is like 4 miles. I'm pretty sure I haven't run more than 4 miles at a time since January. So quite a leap to do over 20 miles in 1 weekend. Not to mention I did the Murph workout the Monday before, and my upper body was still really, really sore from that. Anyway, here's some footage from my virtual trifecta, and then I'll see you again at the end for some final thoughts. Look at the kitty. Hello. 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 So I tried to format my trifecta weekend the same way that Spartan formats their trifecta weekends in person. So I just went to the Spartan website and went to the page for the closest trifecta, which is Hawaii. And the way that they do it is the Beast on Saturday, and then the Super on Sunday morning, and then the Sprint on Sunday afternoon. So that's what I fully intended on doing. The first race, therefore, was the Beast on Saturday, and I planned on waking up and doing it at 8 a.m. That's around the time that my age group would have been starting that race. That's not what happened. My alarm went off, and I was like, nah, I don't want it. So I ended up doing it when I felt like it, which when I felt like it ended up being around 11:30 a.m. Cool, I got to sleep in a little more, but unfortunately, Saturday was really, really hot, and I was running during the hottest part of the day. Here's how I divided it. The Beast is 13.1 miles and 30 obstacles, so I wanted to start and finish on a run and just do 1 obstacle after each lap around my block, because a lap around my block is about 4/10 of a mile. So I started off with 2 laps and then did my first obstacle, and then after that it was just lap, obstacle, and then at the end it was just whatever running was left, which ended up being a lap and then a little bit farther. For those of you keeping count, that's over 30 laps around my neighborhood on one of the hottest days that we've had so far during the hottest part of the day. So enjoy.
Okay, so I just finished the 12th obstacle, which means that I'm a little over a third of the way through, almost a half of the way through, and I'm wiped already. I'm seriously regretting starting at 11:30 because each lap that I do is hotter and sunnier than the last, and I've been trying to stay hydrated. I had a goo around the 45-minute mark, and I haven't been sweating in a while, and for the past 2 laps I've had a really bad cramp in my lower left side. So this is fun. My speed has significantly gone down. I'm procrastinating because I don't want to run another lap, but here we go. So it's another lap down. Real talk, I don't even want to get back up. But it's time for another lap. James just finished.
So hot.
He started like an hour and a half before I did. So I just finished obstacle number 16, and he just finished.
I'm gonna go drink a lot now and die.
Okay, I'm gonna run another lap. Okay, so I'm dying, and here's why. Running a half marathon in 90 degrees, but woof, now I'm dying. Love my more bacon shirt, but it's gotta go. Alright, last 5 obstacles, and then I'm done. And this is the only time I'll have to do these obstacles this weekend, because they're only a part of the beast. They're not part of the super or the sprint. They also happen to be the 5 most annoying obstacles. Bring me a higher love. Bring me a higher love. Whoa. I just did the last obstacle, which means that I just need to run one more lap, and then I'm done. Whose idea was this? That was hard. But I'm done. 3:26:36. My legs are throbbing, particularly my calves and my feet, like the sides and bottoms of my feet. I'm in so much pain that I can't even get myself to stand long enough to take a shower. So I just took off like my dirty exercise clothes and just slapped a clean hoodie and joggers over it so that I could like lay down in bed, because I don't even have the energy in my legs to take a shower at this point. I definitely underestimated this workout, and usually when I have multiple races in the same weekend, it usually starts off with like the shortest race and then works its way up And today started off with this weekend started off with the longest race and then works its way down to the shortest. So I'm afraid that I exerted so much effort just trying to get today's race done that I'm going to be in too much pain to finish the shorter distances tomorrow. I hope that's not the case. And I guess I underestimated the race because it was split up into laps of like 4/10 of a mile at a time. I was never running like even a full mile at a time, even at the beginning and the ending. So I kind of like brushed off the running part, but it adds up to 13.1 miles and it absolutely felt like it. But I just should have been a little bit more prepared going into it. I definitely should have started earlier and stopped like dilly-dallying in the morning because excuse me, it was way too hot by the time I started, and it was cooling down. Like toward the end it was getting a little bit breezier and a little less, the sun was a little bit less relentless, but I was actually running for the 3 hottest hours of the day, I feel.
So the moral of the story is I'm a big fat baby. I then proceeded to mope around the house in sweats for the next 5 hours, promised myself that I was going to get a full night's sleep, and then stayed up late watching Netflix, but I did hydrate and eat some good food. Which brings us to day 2, Sunday. So the original game plan was to follow the schedule of a regular Trifecta weekend, which my age group would have been starting the super around 8:30 a.m. and then starting the sprint around 12:30. I wanted to adhere to those times as closely as possible. I apparently didn't want it enough, because that is not even remotely what happened. So we didn't actually start the super until 5 or 6. So we changed locations for this one. We decided to do this one at a track. Maybe you knew this already, maybe you didn't, but a track that goes around a football field is deliberately set up so that the innermost ring of the track is exactly a quarter of a mile. So we decided that if we ran our next race at a track, we wouldn't have to track GPS on our phones or on our tracking devices, that we could just run and not worry about starting and stopping our tracking devices. So we did that. I did one obstacle and then a lap around the track, which is a quarter mile, and then kept alternating that way so that I would finish in a run. I finished the last lap a little bit early because a 10K is 6.2 miles, and finishing the last lap would have brought me to 6.25. This was my favorite out of all 3 distances. It just felt like really good pacing in between the running and the obstacles. There were 25 obstacles for this one, and I don't have much footage of this one because we fully intended that James would finish before me, and that when he finished, he would then just grab some footage of, me doing the last few rounds because he's a lot faster than me. That's not what happened. I smoked him. This is probably the only time I'll ever beat James in a race ever. But I did finish a few seconds faster than him, and I was ahead of him for 24. That was disrespectful. But because he started slightly before me, my net time was actually less than his. So I'm pretty proud of that. I'll probably hold it over him for the next 49 years. We'll see what other crowning achievements. But here's a tiny bit of footage from the super.
Okay, it's time to do the super, which is 10K, 6.2 miles, and 25 obstacles.
Yay!
Okay, so I'm about 5 miles in, and I finished all 20 of the sprint obstacles, which means I only have 5 obstacles left, and a little over a mile. even though I'm tired, I feel surprisingly good. I really like the breakup of this one. I have my book on my shoulder because the sun's right behind me. But I finished in 1 hour, 14 minutes, 19 seconds. I'm really proud. I feel like that it felt really good while I was doing it. I felt like I was challenged but not completely wiped. I thought it was a good pace, like the quarter mile of an obstacle pacing was really nice, and to top it all off, I beat James.
So because we started the super so late in the day, we had to run the sprint, the last race, almost immediately after. We did give ourselves time to stretch after the super, and then we drove to a different park to kind of give ourselves some kind of mental break. But by the time we got to the other park, it was like 7:30, 7:45, and curfew in our area is still 8 p.m. And we were really nervous to start the run at this other park because we know that the police do come by after 8 and, start kicking people out. So we were like, I don't know, I don't really want to start and then get kicked out. Maybe we should just start this, and run the streets or run back by the house. And we just saw a whole bunch of people like picnicking and skateboarding and doing other stuff that they weren't supposed to be doing. And I was like, honestly, the sprint is the shortest one out of the 3. It's not going to take us that long. And if the cops come exactly at 8 and start kicking people out, there are other people here that are going to take a lot longer to get out of here than us. So let's just take our chances and run at the park. And that's what we did. The sprint is 3.1 miles and 20 obstacles, which it's a lot of obstacles per the distance. So in order to break it up, kind of the same scheme that we did the other 2 races, where we start and end on a run and then kind of evenly distribute the obstacles throughout, that meant the running segments were only 0.15 miles each, which is really not far at all. It was kind of just like a sprint to where your line of sight ends, and then you stop and do an obstacle. So obviously didn't get a lot of footage from this one either. There was simply no time to stop and take videos or to even stop and start the camera because we were constantly stopping and starting our watches and looking back at where I had written down all the obstacles we needed to do. It was a really fast moving race.
Ready to do the last race?
No.
Okay, time for the virtual sprint, which is 3.1 miles and 20 obstacles. Yay! All right, we did it. Sprint is done. That one was way too quick pace to take any footage. But at this point, we'd already done all the obstacles yesterday and earlier today, so it was a nice relaxed kind of thing. Went by really quickly. 39:34 is that the time? 39:34. Not too shabby for 2 people who haven't been training for Spartans or for distance in the past like 2 or 3 months.
So final thoughts. I did it. I think I succeeded. I was able to do all 3 races in one weekend, even though I didn't do them at the times that I wanted to. I still fit them all in. I didn't skip anything. I did the complete distance. It was pretty challenging, and I think the most challenging part was actually the running, which is so funny to say because I'm first and foremost a runner. I was running exclusively for like 3 years before I got interested in OCR and started building my upper body and adding a little bit more weightlifting and high rep calisthenics to my routine. So the running part being the hardest part was a little shocking to me because I thought it was going to be the easiest part because it was broken down into such small segments. I thought I was going to be sprinting through the whole thing. But that really does go to show you that when you don't train for a while, it affects your speed. It affects your stamina and your endurance. So while I was able to do the distances, because your body does remember all of the hard work you put in the past, I was able to get the distances done, but definitely not as fast as I would have if I was on my normal training schedule. As far as running, like, I'm used to running a lot more than I have been in the past couple of months, especially when I'm in race training, especially marathon training, and like my shortest run for the week is 6 or 8 miles sometimes. I would have definitely been a lot faster if I had trained. I think I would have been a lot faster for Saturday's run if I had done it at the right time. The weather was beautiful when we were running on Sunday, so I don't think that made me any slower, not running at the time that I wanted to. I felt like I did really well on the body weight stuff. If there's anything that I've been doing in the past few months, it's been body weight stuff. So even though I haven't been running as much as I normally run, I've still been doing fitness challenges. So I felt completely equipped to do that. The quantities weren't high. The rep scheme was 10. So every single exercise, you only had to do 10 of it. If it was a hold, it was only 10 seconds. So, like, lately I've been doing more high rep calisthenics. So that part I felt like I went about as fast as I would have been going. Maybe I could have shaved off a couple of seconds if I had trained for it, but I feel like I was equipped to do that part of it. As far as the recovery goes, I was really surprised that I didn't wake up more sore on Sunday. I felt dead after Saturday's race, for real. And I woke up on Sunday and it was fine. Which I think that's a testament to how quickly your body bounces back when you exercise regularly and how much of a difference proper nutrition and sleep makes. How did I do in comparison to other people? See, that's tough because when I did the police exam, I at least had a chart to go by of like, this is what your score needs to be in order to pass. This is what's considered a good score. This is what's considered a bad score. And that information isn't around for this. I didn't even see like a leaderboard or anything with people's times. And I feel like we wouldn't be able to go by that anyway because everyone was self-timing. And I know that I kept the clock running every time I went to get water or reapply my sunscreen or whatever. Like the clock was running the whole time. And I don't necessarily think that everyone else did that. They probably stopped their clocks when they took a rest period. We also don't know if they were doing the exercises with the correct form. But in the end, a virtual race isn't necessarily to see how you rank among other people. A virtual race is for you. It's to see how you do versus your own expectations. And in times like this, it's just to get you moving, to get you doing something physical and active and good for you. One less day of sitting on the couch doing nothing. With that said, I'm really proud of my times. I feel like they were about what I was anticipating. I felt like the beast was going to take me about 3 hours. I felt like the super was going to take me about an hour and a half, and I felt like the sprint was going to take me about an hour. And, I took a little longer than I thought for the beast, but I went under time in comparison to my expectations for the other two races. Are those times good or bad? I don't know. Which brings me to the last question. How does a virtual Spartan compare with a real Spartan? If you're one of those people who, like me, did a virtual Trifecta weekend, are you ready for a real Trifecta weekend? No. Even though the virtual trifecta was definitely challenging, it was definitely a good workout, but it does not even compare to how challenging a real Spartan is. Obviously, the distances are the same, but the Spartans are done on trails usually, so every Spartan I've done has basically been on the side of a mountain. Most of the places where we ran were relatively flat, paved areas, so the running part is definitely harder in a real Spartan. Also, we spaced out our obstacles equally so that we would run, do an obstacle, run, do an obstacle, and it was nice and even, gave us plenty of time to recover. And real Spartans aren't set up like that. You might have a really long time of running without an obstacle in between. You might have obstacles that are back to back to back, and you don't have time to recover in between them. Besides that, in a real Spartan, if you are unable to complete an obstacle, there's a 30 burpee penalty, and the penalty at a real Spartan is harder than any of the obstacles of the virtual Spartan. By reps alone, the rep scheme in the virtual race was 10 reps. So, virtual Spartan is not remotely close in level of difficulty to a real Spartan. And I don't think that that's what they were going for. I also think that that's why virtual Spartans don't count toward your Spartan trifecta status. They don't count towards the real races, and you don't get an actual medal. You get a virtual medal. You know, supposedly I never received confirmation that I even submitted results, so we'll see. But that was my original concern when I found out about these virtual races, that a whole bunch of people would do the virtual Spartan and then be like, wow, that wasn't so bad, and then go and do a real Spartan, you know, later this year or next season when the races start back up again, and actually die on the side of a mountain. And that was a huge concern to me, that people would think that one equates to the other. Oh, I did, you know, a virtual beast, so I'm ready to do like a real beast. And they really, really don't compare. For reference, my times for each of these races are probably double the time that it took for me to do the virtual race. I think my fastest beast ever was over 6 hours on the side of a mountain. I dare to say it's maybe 2 times as hard as the virtual Spartan, but I don't want this to be disheartening to anyone else. I think that doing the virtual race is excellent training for the real race. I feel like if you can do the virtual race, you can work your way up to doing the real race, and just expect that it is going to be more challenging and that it is going to take a lot more time. But although one doesn't equate to the other, one can definitely be a stepping stone to the other. So I'd love to hear from you. Did you complete a virtual Spartan race? Did you do one of them, 2 of them, or all 3? Did you do it as a part of Spartan Project Unbreakable, or did you do it some other weekend? Do you plan on doing it? I put all the obstacles down in the description box along with the distances, so at the time that you see this video, maybe you decide that you want to try a virtual Spartan on your own. And if you beat my times, tell me. Tell me down below. I want you to brag, because I sure am going to brag to my husband about beating him for that one race. But speaking of challenges, I do host free fitness and nutrition challenges all year long. The next challenge is the July Bodyweight Challenge. It's only 2 weeks long, every other day for 2 weeks. The deadline is July 6th, I think, to sign up. I'm going to have that link to sign up in the description box below. You can join. It's absolutely free, no crazy commitments. Basically, you just tell me which challenges you're interested in. I send you the instructions, and that's it. I also still have a giveaway going for just a few more days. I'm giving away a few items from Gerard Cosmetics, which is a makeup brand. So if you're interested in entering that giveaway, I'm going to link you to the video right up here, so you can check out that video, and all of the giveaway information is in the description box of that video, so be sure to enter that giveaway before it's over.
What?
You're peeing in the background of my video. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. I post new videos on the first Wednesday of every month. I also have a Battle of the Boxes fitness unboxing on the penultimate day of each month. Haven't had it for the past 2 months, and the reason why is because there were shipping delays and I didn't have my boxes yet, but I just received all of my May boxes. I received the last one yesterday. So I'm going to be filming the May Battle of the Boxes and posting that next week. And then I also have a bonus video for you guys this month. So if all goes well, there will be 4 Malinden TV videos this month. Today, the May Battle of the Boxes bonus video, and the June Battle of the Boxes. But that's if all of my boxes get here on time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.